Okay, next we will look at the signups form page, the page, you guessed it, that will allow you to manage all your sign-up forms. This is what it looks like when you see it for the very first time. So everything is still empty. There is no report available yet. And don't worry, we're going to change that in just a bit. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So we start with a default form always. That really allows you to get started within minutes without having to set up your own form. I mean, that is a really powerful and cool feature, as we will see in a bit. But if you need it faster and you don't want to waste your time, you can directly use the default form and it's working perfectly. Okay, so we click here and we can even use the shared version. That way we don't even have to embed any code or JavaScript into our site, but you always have the three options. You can use this JavaScript snippet that you can just simply copy here and then insert into your own website. You have that entire HTML snippet which you can copy and insert into your site. Or even simpler, you just copy here this URL, or we can directly open it in a new tab, which we'll do. One disclaimer, this only works if you have done two things. You have to confirm your email that you used to signing up for Maildroppa, and two, you need to provide us your postal address for legal reasons, right? We have done that previously when we were sending out our first newsletter campaign, so we assume that you did that already too. In this case, you can use it just as I have showed here. Okay, so let's open it and let's see what happens. So this is the default form. The first name is not mandatory, so we don't have to fill it. So let's just focus on the email in this case. We can click submit and then it says, thanks for your subscription. Also keep note, there could be, the marketing permission checkbox. In this case, we have configured it not to be used to also show you, this is totally up to you. You may use the marketing permissions, but you don't have to, okay? Yeah, so that's already it. And now we have to wait a bit and then the report should update and we should already see our first request. And then further, as soon as we go to the email that we received for subscription confirmation, we will also see a confirmation happening here. And if we have just one request and one confirmation, I would expect the conversion rate here to be 100%, okay? Yeah, so let's wait a bit and we see each other on the other side. Thanks. Okay, so after a while, this page has been updated. We see there is one request because we loaded the subscription form once. And when we signed up, there was a confirmation email sent to our email address. In this email is a link to confirm the email address and the link I clicked. And that's why we have one confirmed subscription, right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal for our newsletter, of course. And that gives us, in our example, a conversion rate of 100%. Hooray. Yeah. So let's see, what else do we have? Well, now also the report has been updated. So the page is not so empty anymore. So we see on this day, today, on the 8th August of 2022, we have one request. What else do we see? Well, here we can choose between seeing all the forms within one report. At the moment, we have just the default form, so there is not much difference. But we can switch between all forms or one specific form. Later, after we have created different forms, we will see the difference. And when we can see all forms in one report, that is actually quite helpful because this way we can see which of the forms is the best performing one for us, right? But I mean, you can use multiple forms in parallel. So yeah, whatever you like. Okay. So by the way, here we can deactivate a form, which is most probably most useful for the default form because you will get it by default. And so you may want to deactivate it if you don't want to use it. Or maybe even you use it initially, but then at some point you decide to create your own form. And maybe you shared the link somewhere, but you don't want people to use it. further, because the default form has just the first name and email. Later, you might have created a form with many more fields, and that would be a good use case to deactivate the form. And would you change your mind, you can activate it again anytime, right? What else can we see? Well, here you can choose from which date to which date you want to see the report, and you can choose how it's grouped by day, week, months, quarter, and year. And that's pretty much the same. Well, it is the same as we have for the reports for the subscribers. Yeah. On top here we see the form settings. We will look at these later. Now, next we will create our first own custom form. Okay, so on this page we can choose which form we want to create. So the first one is the slider form. And to give you a better idea of what this will be like, there is always a sample of what this could look like. So in gray is a symbolized form of your website. And then you see here on the bottom right is the slider form. Slider means it will first of all be like very small. And then as soon as the site is loaded, after a while, it will slide into the site, right? And that movement motivates your end customer more likely to fill out the form, right? Because something is moving is like getting attraction, right? Yeah. And this is just one sample. You can also put it into a different corner of your site, like the top right or the top left or the bottom left and so forth and so on, right? Each form also has a very different features, so it really is worth to look at each of them before you make a decision. And you could also use all three at once, which I do on my own blog, right? Okay, so let's look second at the page inline form. So here again is a little sample of what this could look like. Inline means it's really part of your site. So when you scroll the site, then also the form will be moved with the site itself, right? So it's part of the site. You can put it anywhere you like. For example, you could put it into the navigation side at the right side of your website, right? So that it would always sit on top. People will always see it and could fill it out, right? Okay, and then last but not least, the pop-up form. As the name implies, after a few seconds it will pop up. So this one is really in your face, right? And now this is your decision if you like it or not. And of course you can test with all the forms and then, make a decision. Okay, so now let's start with the slider to create a slider form to see how that goes.